What's up, everybody? Merry Christmas. Glad to see you. And as you know, recruiting news apparently never stops, especially in the transfer portal era. So we got to talk about it on this wonderful holiday. My name is Michael Borky. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment as well. I would appreciate you doing that. So Walter Nolen, the number one player in the transfer portal, not number one defensive lineman. Well, he is that as well. But the number one overall player in the transfer portal, the Texas A&M transfer, is off to Ole Miss. He made that announcement on Christmas Eve, so I guess he was in the giving spirit as well. So let's talk about it here for a few minutes. I appreciate you guys being here, checking the channel out. If you've missed the live streams, don't worry. They will come back on Tuesday. We'll see you Tuesday, the 27th, and we'll get back to the regular schedule after a Christmas holiday. But anyway, Walter Nolen is a huge get for Ole Miss for a lot of reasons, obviously. But most importantly, there aren't really many players like Walter Nolen available almost ever. I mean, in high school recruiting, in portal recruiting, he is projected to be, now, it's a full season away, but he's projected to be, in some cases, a top 10 pick in the 2025 NFL draft. As a defensive lineman, with his physical ability and his projection, he's just rare. There's not many guys like him that are out there. And when there is a guy like him out there, everybody wants a player like that. So they're rare. And when they're available, all of college football wants a player like him. So for Ole Miss to get a guy like that is just incredibly massive because of the rarity of a guy like Walter Nolen. But also, he and a guy like him, and if you've listened to me before, if you listen to the radio show, I've said this 100 times, but it bears repeating. This is the exact kind of player that the Ole Miss defense was missing in 2023. This was a good Ole Miss team, but they were still flawed in some areas. And this was a good defensive line for the most part. It had a good rotation. It was highly productive with sacks and tackles for loss. They had a lot of really solid players on this defensive line. There's a couple of them that are returning to Ole Miss, like Pegues and Ivy, that I think are going to be on NFL rosters come 2025. But they didn't have a high-end guy, an elite level, first-round caliber guy like Walter Nolen. And then also Uman Mielen, who we've talked about before, the Florida transfer. The defense was solid. The rotation was good. You had a lot of productive role players, but you didn't have somebody that opposing offenses feared. And now you've got somebody on the boat that opposing offenses will fear out of your defense. That was kind of the missing piece from this Ole Miss team last year, was dominance in the trenches. They had solid, they had in a few cases objectively very good, but they didn't have dominant. And that's the kind of player that Walter Nolen can be. And for good measure, that's the kind of player that Uman Mielen can be as well. Again, the edge from Florida. But we're talking about Nolen today. He was kind of the missing piece on this defense. And so now when you add him to a rotation of the aforementioned Uman Mielen and returning J.J. Pegues and Jared Ivey and now Barron from Tennessee and the guys returning from that really solid defense, you've got a rotation paired with the high-end players that you didn't have a year ago that could lead to Ole Miss having a dominant defensive line, which is just simply not something that they had a year ago. It was productive, but it wasn't dominant. And if you're going to win a championship, which is clearly what they are chasing at the moment, you need dominant. And Walter Nolen can be and is dominant. And that is a huge pickup there. But also, so that's like the football perspective, right? Like he will help the football team. He's a dominant player, can be a dominant player for sure, has the physical attributes that just don't really grow on trees and they don't come around very often. But also for the Ole Miss program as a whole, the kind of message that this sends, you won a recruiting battle for the number one portal player in the country at a highly, highly coveted position that literally everybody wants. Everybody in college football wants Walter Nolen on their team, even Texas A&M, despite some of the stuff going around on social media. That's just salt more than anything else. But everybody wants a player like Walter Nolen on their team. And he hits the portal, and you win that battle. And regardless of why you won that battle, it's this goofy thing that's happening now in this discourse around the portal is, well, they paid the most. That's all it is. Okay. You do what you have to do to win with the cards that you are dealt. And in the NIL era and the portal NIL era, how do you get players? Do you have to offer them the biggest salary. Okay, understandably so. It's not dissimilar to the NFL. It's not dissimilar to real life. When you've got an accounting graduate, they get offered from the big four firms, and they're all good places to work. But which one are you going to choose? Probably the one that gives you the most benefits. I don't know. The bemoaning of how Ole Miss has acquired some of these players is a little bit goofy, in my opinion. All they're doing is playing the game as it's been laid out in front of them. Do you have to pay players to win in college football today? Yes. So why is that some kind of a negative? Oh, you only paid him. Well, good. That's what you're supposed to do. If that's what it takes to get a player like Walter Nolen, that's exactly what you should do to get a player like Walter Nolen. But it's not just about money. And there are some people that say that these players are only going to the highest bidder. And yes, there's negotiating and there's salary offers, which is what they are, NIL salary offers. But you still have to be a program that is winning, right? It's Dylan Gabriel, for example, the quarterback wasn't going to go to Rutgers if Rutgers offered him 20,000 more dollars than Oregon. These high-level players are wanting to go to places that win football or that will win and will help them get to the next level and will help their branding because that is a thing now. So for Ole Miss, even if they were the highest bidder, if Ole Miss wasn't a place that was a if it wasn't attractive, if it wasn't winning, if it wasn't set up to have a really, really good 2024, if it didn't have all of those things, then Walter Nolen wouldn't have considered Ole Miss at all. So it's not just money. Too many people are so focused on, well, it's only about the money. The money's a major, major factor, but you still have to do everything else well as well. Or a guy like Walter Nolen would have just gone to Georgia because Georgia was in the game as well as Oregon and others. So if Ole Miss wasn't, at least in Walter Nolen's eyes, a place that he can go and win and play at the highest level, compete for a championship, and get ready for the NFL, he wouldn't have gone to Ole Miss, even having a $10,000 larger offer or whatever you want to call it. So this tells you that Ole Miss financially is in the game among the big boys in college football. That is clearly what their portal class is telling you. But it also is telling you that even though they have the money, they also are able to sell the rest of it because everybody else has money too. Oregon has money. Georgia has money. Texas A&M has money. Alabama has money. LSU has money. All these programs do. And all of these programs are offering money to players. And it's all kind of similar. And so what do you do to separate yourself? Ole Miss clearly has been able to do just that. So Walter Nolen off to Ole Miss, a huge, huge Christmas Eve pickup for Lane Kiffin and Pete Golding. They are creating a portal haul that is almost hard to fathom on the defensive side of the ball. So really good pickup there. Merry Christmas to all of you. Hope all of you have a really safe and happy holiday. Hope Santa is really good to you. And God bless you all. And I will see you on Tuesday for a live stream. We're back on Tuesday. We'll see you then.